Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Let me see. Okay, hold on.
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you great now.
Okay. Um, this is Resident of Collinwood. Jules Sains here with Mark at I_Barnabas. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. So glad to be back and talking with you again.
We are here to discuss Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do one movie at a time here because to get through the entire Star Wars saga would take the rest of our lives in one video. So
Right.
we're gonna do one movie at a time, and we are gonna do this again. We're gonna do each movie. We're gonna schedule another one down the line for the
Yes,
next
sir.
movie. So we're tonight though we're gonna do Star Wars Episode One: The Phantom Menace. So what got you into Star Wars?
It's something that I grew up with, really. I remember my parents had, you know, I have an older brother, and he was really into Star Wars. He was born before the first one came out, and I was born just after the year after The Empire Strikes Back came out, and my parents recorded it on TV, and we had a VHS copy, and I remember watching The Empire Strikes Back, and I loved it, and I loved Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Um, I've always loved snow, so like Hoth and all that stuff, everything was perfect for me, and I was immediately sucked into it. And then I saw Return of the Jedi, and oddly enough, I didn't see A New Hope until probably about 4 or 5 years later. I was in second grade, so I've seen them all out of order. But I got really sucked into the universe, and I loved all of it, and it really stuck with me. So, how about you?
My mom wouldn't let me watch Star Wars first. I had to before I watched Star Wars.
Mhm.
My mom was a huge Battlestar Galactica fan, so I had to watch that first and then Star Wars. So I watched Star Wars about 1993.
Oh wow, okay.
And because again, I had to watch Battlestar Galactica first, and so in
Yeah.
court, that was my mom's rule. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, no problem. Because I asked to watch Star Wars. She goes, well, you got to watch Battlestar Galactica first. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So
Nice.
1993 is when I first watched the first one. Well, what was the first one until they did episode one, but until they did this movie, the prequels, and
Mhm.
I loved it. I was hooked. I knew I would love it. Everybody kept talking about it. Hey, did you watch Star Wars? I'm like, no. Me and my brother got to watch Battlestar Galactica first, and everyone's like, oh, you'll love that, and I did. I loved both. So what did
Very
you
cool.
when you watched when they announced they were doing prequels? What was your initial thought of that?
I was really excited because I had a friend when I was in eighth grade that loved Star Wars as much as I did, and he was, excuse me, he was about 3 years older than me, and he had a lot of the books and a lot of the magazines. And anytime he came to school, he always had a Star Wars something in his hand and was reading it. And so he and I used to talk about it, and it was from him that I first heard that they were going to announce, um, or that they had announced that they were making three more movies. And I was excited. I didn't know how it was going to work, and the concept of it, and I was excited to finally um, know what Anakin Skywalker was like, because I loved how Obi-Wan Kenobi described him in A New Hope, that he was a cunning warrior, that he was a good friend and an excellent pilot. So it sounded like an exciting character to get to know about. So that was my main focus of wanting to hear about the prequels. I was excited to learn about Anakin Skywalker.
I was too. I think another thing, the one thing I really wanted to learn the most about Anakin wasn't just necessarily his turn to the dark side, but how he came to meet the Jedi. And I'm thinking,
Yeah,
are we, my thought going in was, were we going to get all that? You know what I mean? Like that whole arc. And so when I went to go see it in theaters, and I'm just like, and when we got like how he met him, how he was on Tatooine, I was like, holy shit, we're getting it. What was your reaction to meeting Anakin?
I really liked it. Something, and I hate that so many people um, really gave Jake Lloyd a hard time for his performance. I never had any problems with him. I liked that George Lucas started off with Anakin as a boy, because Anakin was an optimistic boy. He was a confident kid, um, and I think that everyone at some point in their lives can relate to that innocence,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone can identify with that. And Anakin in the later episodes, he was very angsty, which everyone feels teenage angst, but it's not always on the same degree. But I think at one point everyone can relate to that innocence of childhood, and I think that I really enjoyed how George started him off, because it was something familiar that we knew, and I really liked meeting Anakin for the first time. I thought he was a very likable kid, someone that I think I would have liked to have played with when I was little.
I really think when we see, and I know we're going to discuss the other two films later on, when we see
Mm-hmm.
Anakin as an adult, I still see the kid.
Yeah,
There's not. I think the actor did an amazing job for giving.
mm-hmm.
You're with a veteran actor in Liam Neeson. You know, you know,
Yeah,
ask any kid to carry. You know what I mean? To carry. To carry yourself with Liam Neeson,
right.
and
That's not a task.
no, and you and McGregor. It's like, this kid had no small task, and I think he
Right.
pulled it off very nicely.
I do.
It wasn't something, when I seen Anakin, it wasn't something that felt forced. It wasn't like it didn't feel forced or fake. It felt
Right.
natural.
It wasn't like he was just reading lines.
Right, exactly. His facial
Mm-hmm.
expression too,
Yeah.
that was so good. And
It,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
His I love how, like you said, Obi-Wan describes him. You got most of that description from when he was a child, because
Yeah.
you get the mechanic, you get the pilot because of the race for his freedom, that he doesn't, he's not aware that uh, Kai Wan Jen betted his freedom,
Right.
and and then you get the warrior when he gets in there and he starts shooting the droids. So you
Right.
get all that even before he's a teen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, man, George Lucas. I'd love to hug George Lucas. He'd probably give me a restraining order, but it was beautiful.
It was. It was. I loved it. And my favorite scene with Anakin, and you were talking about how things felt really natural, um, was when he was saying bye to his mom,
Hmm.
and the way that he was walking off with Qui-Gon, and then he stopped and turned back, and he had to run back to her, and just that scene where he was saying, will I ever see you again? I thought it was so good. That was such a great scene, probably one of my favorites in the whole prequel trilogy. and where he was vowing to come back and free her, and that he promised that he would. And that's another character. I think that Shmi Skywalker, his mother, doesn't get enough credit that she deserves for being a tough lady, because she was living in some pretty rough conditions, and to instill that positivity in Anakin that you could see in the Phantom Menace was pretty incredible.
It really it painted you a picture of, even though there's like this Senate and all this democracy going on, there's still corruption and war. There's still slavery throughout the in the galaxy, and
Right.
Jabba the Hutt it looked really good, and then you have his mother who she know she doesn't she knows she can't leave. She watches her son win. She knows he's gonna leave, and she lives with it. You know what I mean? She lives with the fact that she has to stay. And I agree with you 1,000%. She was golden. That their chemistry was great, mother and son.
I loved it. It just felt very right, very, very right.
Let's get to perhaps the best villain in these prequels, Darth Maul.
Yes.
What were your thoughts about him?
Okay, really the best way I can describe him was my reaction when I saw, because this was the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw in a theater. And, we didn't, and people have heard me tell this story before, we didn't really have a movie theater around, and there was a new theater that had opened up in the capital city in West Virginia, in Charleston, and they had the THX surround sound. And so seeing something like this, like Star Wars, just absolutely blew my mind. And when I saw Darth Maul, I thought he was, when he appeared first, I loved how they teased him, how he appeared first in the hologram form, and then you see him with the hood, and then at the very end, when the music Duel of the Fates is starting, and you see him pull out his lightsaber, and it ignites, and then he presses another button, and it ignites again. My chin was on the floor. I couldn't believe it, how incredible this guy looked. And then all the ninjutsu moves he was doing. I mean, I was just completely captivated, because in the original trilogy, and this isn't a knock against them, a lot of the fights were really hack and slash, and they had both hands on sabers, and it was slower. And to see something like this, just I wasn't expecting it. It completely blew my mind, and I was just in total awe and loved every bit of it. The music, the moves, the choreography, and the fights, everything was just right. And I thought that, we knew that from seeing the original trilogy before the prequels, that Darth Vader had a conflict in him, and there was always a struggle of good and evil. And you could tell Maul was just completely evil and enjoyed every bit of it. There was no conflict in this guy.
1,000% agree with you. Darth Maul and Darth Vader are two completely different Sith Lords.
Yes, they are.
Darth Vader was always conflicted. I would dare say, and I know I'm probably gonna get it in the face for this, Darth Maul to me is more of a Sith Lord, true Sith Lord, than what Vader ever was, because he committed, he fully was committed to the dark side of the Force. Now we don't know his origin, and I hope one day we get that, maybe. And my hope is, if we get that, George Lucas writes and directs the damn guy again. But I agree with something you said on Twitter, and I give Mark full credit. He was a stealth ninja, Sith Lord or Sith. I know he was an apprentice. Sorry to say I said Sith Lord, but he was an apprentice. But he was a stealth ninja. He was just my God, he could move and he was acrobatic, like you said.
Yeah,
I can't phrase it better than you, but I agree with you 1,000%. He's not. It's great to see there's differences in these Siths. You
mhm,
know, from Darth Maul to Darth Plagueis to to Darth Vader. It just there are differences. Even with General Grievous, there's a difference because
right,
he's a robot. But
right.
there's the where I point to. Well, who do you consider the best? I keep looking at Darth Maul like, damn dog, I'm sorry you died in the first one. Could you come back?
Right. Only gripe with this movie is, I mean, and I can't fault it for, for that, but what I would have preferred, I wish that Darth Maul could have escaped and that he could have been the face of, like Darth Vader was for the original trilogy, that Darth Maul could have been the face continuing throughout the prequel trilogy. And I think I really would have liked to have seen Anakin face off against him. And I think that would have been good. But I think my favorite, where I was talking about how much Maul really enjoyed the dark side and fully embraced it, my favorite part of Darth Maul's fight was when the Duel of the Fates had just started, and you see Darth Maul like point towards the ground, and he picks up something and slams it and opens the door. You can just see this smirk on the face, like, look what I can do. Now come at me. So I loved that part. That was my favorite thing that he did. It was great.
Yeah, he's one hell of a heel. I mean,
Mm,
he if I had to pick someone, if someone ever asked me, well, who steals the prequels? Darth Maul does.
yeah,
1,000% steals these
yeah,
prequels almost with just being in one film. He
right.
literally it is. I was blown away. It felt like I was watching The Shadow with a lightsaber. That's how I felt, and I still feel that same way when I watch it now. It's like I guess my gripe about this movie is the same as yours in some sense. I wish they sort of would have let him live. I get why they didn't because you got to put over Obi-Wan,
Right.
and it makes sense because Ewan McGregor is going to be around. So
True.
I don't, I don't. I know we're not going to put a big gripe on it. It's just we look at the heel and we go, man, that was really good.
I wanted more of him. Definitely wanted more of him. He is my favorite villain in the Skywalker saga.
He's really really he's out of the original six,
Mhm.
other than the Sith Lord, the main Sith Lord, Senator Palpatine, really.
Yeah,
To me, Darth Maul is right behind him. That's it.
yeah,
That
yeah.
if there's any one person who's higher, because to me, the Sith Lord trained him personally. That's where he got all this from.
Right.
So it's that's the only person I can really put him behind.
Mhm. Right. And I mean, and he had no motivation or anything. He just enjoyed it. So he was just evil, and he really was definitely, like the title said, a menace. And I really, really enjoyed his character a lot.
What did you think of the race for Anakin's freedom?
That was exciting. Now I had
Hmm.
the first time I watched it, um, I had a little bit of a hard time, I guess, keeping up with all the betting and everything that was going on. So I understood, you know, all the wagers and everything a little bit better my second time through. But I thought the pod race sequence was very, very exciting, and I got to see the movie once when they re-released it in 3D, and watching the pod race in 3D was just incredible. I love the sound effects, um, especially like in that THX, the sound theater, the way it was rumbling and stuff. It rumbled my chest, and everything. I had never experienced anything like that before. So seeing the pod race was really really cool. I've always loved things like chase sequences and fast cars and stuff like that on in TV and movies. So seeing the pod race was really really cool.
I love the
What about
fact.
you?
Sorry, I love the fact that it. Every time I watch this movie, it feels like you're there in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can just feel the tension and the intensity, and yet the excitement of the race all the time.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that you get to see Anakin build this pod prior, it helps. It makes
Mm-hmm.
you feel for him and understand how passionate he is about the race.
Right.
No, I mean he does something like I said. He doesn't know that Qui Gon has bet his freedom. He's
Mm-hmm.
literally racing to more to help them than help himself. So
Right.
he Qui Gon reminds me of one of those just a big gambler. I'm like, man, this dude gambles a lot. I feel like I'm watching like a live bet, like I'm at the track or something. But it was amazing to see the race and just the build to the race and then watch it. That's something I loved completely.
Oh, same, same. And I really liked Sebulba and all the other racers, and
Yeah,
some of them had a little bit of trouble getting off the ground
yeah,
and getting started, and I was really glad that on the Blu-ray they extended the pod racing scene a little bit because I had the VHS when it first came out, and it had been edited down. And on the Blu-ray and the DVD, they extended the scene a little bit, so you got to see more of the racers and a little bit more of the pod race. It was extended by uh, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes, so I really enjoyed that.
one of my favorite parts were the Tuscan Raiders shooting at Anakin from above. Oh,
Yeah, and
I,
I loved the announcers just called it out like that was just like everyday normal thing for them, and they were like posing for the camera and raising their gaffy sticks and doing their cheers and stuff. It was great.
right. I agree with you. It was just like man, that is awesome. They're just like yeah, this is everyday life. I'm like
Yeah,
what?
just another Tatooine. It was really really good, really good, and I love the music that played during the pod race. Because there was an equal balance of music that was driving what was going on, and then it would pull back and let you hear the sound of the engines, and
Mhm.
sound effects would pop, and it was just a perfect sequence for me.
And it doesn't take away from the race either. It just
No, it
adds to
doesn't.
it.
Hmm.
I
I
agree.
agree.
We love. Can you tell we love this movie?
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of movies that I love and really like, but there are a few, and this is one of them, that when I saw it, I fell in love with the movie, and that excitement that I had the very first time I saw it in a theater has never left. Anytime I see this movie, I still feel those feelings 21 years later. So that really says something, I think, to how unfair it is that people really trash on this movie. There's a lot more merit to this if people would really give it a chance. I know it's popular to bash this movie, and I don't understand why, but I think this is a fantastic movie, and it was such a great way to introduce uh, everyone. And speaking of introducing, how did you feel about C-3PO being built by Anakin?
I was pleasantly shocked,
Hmm.
and I'll tell you why. I kept thinking of something C-3PO said. He said their owner, that his owner and R2-D2's owner was a farmer or something like that. I forget exactly what he said.
Right.
But I'm thinking they wiped the droid's memories by the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
So he doesn't exactly remember who his owner was. And then you see, again, it made all the sense that he would build a robot. So why not C3PO when this kid's putting together cars, space race cars?
Right.
I love the fact that he's putting together a robot. Whether it would have, even if it wouldn't have been C3PO, I would have been happy. But the fact that it was C3PO, I was even more happy because I'm thinking, man, that is really cool that
Mhm.
Anakin is the one who was building C3PO.
Yeah. Yeah, he was building it to help his mom. So that
Yep.
was really, and I love the moment when he and R2D2 got to meet for the first time. And I love R2's introduction where he saved, you know, the Queen's ship when they were being fired on by that blockade of the Federation trade ships. But the meeting of C3PO and R2D2, just everything felt perfect in that scene.
Right, and it's another scene that doesn't feel forced. It's just natural. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the one thing George Lucas does not get enough credit for with these prequels. Nothing in these prequels really feels forced in any three of them, in my opinion. And especially in this movie. It's
Right.
I give this movie a perfect 10. Even
I,
with Maul's death, as much as I don't want it, I give it a 10. What's your grade?
I give it a 10. And if, you know, on IMDb, this was one of the first movies that I rated whenever I made my own IMDb account. This movie got a 10 for me as well. So um, I have I have no problems with it. Like I said, other than just, you know, maybe a difference in opinion, and as far as Darth Maul, I would have liked him to have lived, but I was okay with the way that it happened. You know, Obi-Wan is my favorite character, so I was glad that he was the one that you know, if anyone was going to take down Maul, I'm glad it was him.
Were you shocked that we got the Jedi Council right in the first movie?
I was actually. I wasn't sure what to expect, and I thought it was cool getting to see the Jedi Temple and
Mm-hmm.
seeing them as I guess like I don't know what you would call like I guess FBI Secret Service of the Republic. You know, they were the ones that, you know, nobody wanted to mess with, and if a Jedi got dispatched to settle something, you know, they were going to be successful, and you know, you didn't nobody wanted to mess with the Jedi. Even Anakin, as far as the Outer Rim, he even told Qui-Gon, he said, you know, no one can kill a Jedi. So they had, you know, a reputation, you know, near and far, that you didn't want to mess with them. So yeah, I thought it was really cool getting to see the Jedi Council and all the different looks. You know, they weren't all like human
Mm-hmm.
looking and Yoda. Um, you know, they were all different creatures, and I loved one thing I do love about the Phantom Menace is, to me, this movie was a perfect marriage of CGI and practical effects
Mm-hmm.
before completely digital in the next two. I love the practical effects in this movie, that they were on location, and the sets. I thought it was such a good blend of both, and I really really loved the way that all the characters looked in this movie.
I agree. I think the best thing that really demonstrates this as well is
Mm-hmm.
when they show Jar Jar's home. You know, when they show the underwater.
Yeah, Otogunga.
Right, I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry, but when they show
No,
his
you're
home, when they show his home, I was just like, and I watched it twice today with my kids because I never showed it to my kids, and I'm just
oh
like, and my daughter who loves the water, she's like, "Oh my God, Daddy, that looks so beautiful," and I'm like, "Doesn't it though?"
yeah, it does. And yeah, that was another thing that blew me away, was seeing this big bright underwater city, um, and just the way that it looked on the inside. And when they walked through the, you know, the bubbles and
Mm-hmm.
walked inside, I thought that was really really cool looking. I love the way that the city looked, and the Gungans, and um, Jar Jar never bothered me. I mean, I knew what he was there for, that he was, there for comedy and to, relate to younger kids. But slapstick has always been my favorite kind of comedy. So there were some really good slapstick moments with Jar Jar. So I never was bothered by him like a lot of people say that they were. So um, I loved watching the behind the scenes footage of the actor Ahmed Best, walking and moving, how he moved in the motion capture suit as Jar Jar. That was really cool.
I think Jar Jar is a really interesting character because it, everyone, not just him, but all of his people are different too. They all have different personalities, and you get them like right away as soon as they go in. And it's like the half of them are serious, half of them are even like the main one. It's like
All pop.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's like the way he's talking seriously, but it's almost like he's wanting to laugh at Jar Jar and laugh at the situation Jar Jar's in almost. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, are you really gonna punish this guy? Like, and then
I know.
Qui Gon like, well, I saved his life and he owes me his life, so he's coming with me. And they're like, oh, fine, take it. I'm just
Right.
like, what?
By mind trick. So
Right.
yeah.
My
Uh,
favorite
um.
my favorite line by Qui Gon is when he tells Anakin, "How do you know I didn't kill a Jedi to get this lightsaber?"
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? So-
Mm. Yeah, that's what he was saying. No one could kill a Jedi.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so that was foreshadowing there. But I really liked the whole sequence when they left Otogunga in the transport, and they were going through the ocean to get to the
Hmm.
Queen's Mountain. Um, the big fish, and that's, I guess you could say, that's kind of the theme of the movie. Something that Qui-Gon said: "There's always a bigger fish," and there was. They thought that the Trade Federation was the main enemy, but they were being controlled by Darth Maul. But then Darth Maul was being controlled by Palpatine, and
Hmm.
no one had a clue. So I thought that was a good line to put in there, that there's always a bigger fish. Because that could, if you rename the title of episode 1, "There's Always a Bigger Fish," I think that would probably work.
Right, Mark's right. The foreshadowing in this movie is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily in your face, but it's there.
Yeah.
Uh, what were your thoughts on the importance of the Senate within this movie and within the series?
I think, I love the look of Coruscant, and I thought that seeing the one Senate session that we do, um, knowing what I did about uh, who Palpatine was, I knew that he was going to be the Emperor. It was uh, it was something seeing how he kept whispering in Queen Amidala's ear when she was trying to, plead for the case for her planet, um, for the Senate to intervene and stop what the Trade Federation had been doing, and how he kept whispering all the right things in her ear to get her to start a vote to move out the Supreme Chancellor, knowing that he would get to take his place and get to take control of the Senate. And it was kind of, you got an eerie feeling seeing how um, Palpatine was getting his rise to power, and that everyone was so accepting of it and thinking that he was really going to be someone that was going to put an end to the corruption that they saw, and how it was more or less a unanimous decision by the Senate. And you could argue that Palpatine was using the Force to sway everyone's mind to make it happen, but it was really cool seeing him starting to become that puppet master and moving the strings and getting himself in that position of power.
Yeah, Palpatine is the ultimate puppet master in this saga. He pulls every string and then some. I think the one thing I take away most from the Senate is, remember in New Hope the Senate is is only mentioned, it's not shown. And that's the
Right.
one thing I take away from the prequels the most, that I love George Lucas for. He was showing us how the Senate could be used for or against good.
Right.
And that's something I go, wow. I really appreciate that, especially within the first film. I mean, I wasn't, it's something I know we both said. We weren't, you're not expecting all this in the first movie, but you're getting it.
Hmm.
And it's just so, it's
In this
really,
movie.
really good.
Hmm.
So I was just blown away that we got that. And with the Jedi Temple, I was
Hmm.
impressed we got that. I mean, I wasn't expecting all that, but we did get it. And I told my brother, made fun of me when I told him this. He said, well, what did you think of Star Wars: The Phantom Menace? Did you like it? Because a lot of people don't. I said, yeah, I don't really care about those people. I said, because that movie was beautiful. I said, it blew away my expectation. It really
Hey,
did.
same here. And I like that you got you got enough of an understanding without it being too heavy in the politics.
Right.
You got of an understanding, and it was simple enough to where you could see how the old republic and the government worked at this time. And you know, he gave you everything that you needed to kind of get an idea of how it worked, and it was easy to understand and very simple. And I really enjoyed it. And you were talking about how there were a lot of people that didn't like this movie. Um, you know, I wasn't aware that so many people didn't like this movie until
Well, my
2012 when we um, we finally got the internet in West Virginia, and a lot of my friends that I worked with, um, we all liked the movie and we talked about it, and I wasn't really aware that there was so much of a backlash against it until 13, 14 years later. And I was really shocked that there were so many people that um, were saying that they didn't care about the movie, but they've never changed my opinion at all.
No, that's something I said to my brother too on that day. I said, listen, I said, if they honestly go see the movie and they give that opinion, that's fine. I said, but if they're not seeing the movie and they're just saying that because I sort of, purists are the most interesting fan base, because a purist is somebody who will stand on the first set of films or even the first film and say, that's the best. I don't give a shit about the rest.
Right.
And part of me respects that. And that's fine. You can have that opinion. But in the same sense, for you to assassinate a film for the point of, because you're a purist, you're sort of taking away your experience without going. You need to go see this and then go, okay, was this as bad as I maybe thought it was, or I already said it was? And if you still
Right.
feel that way after you've seen it, then I'm fine with that.
Right.
I'd rather somebody have the opinion that something's bad after they see it.
Exactly.
With this, I walked in going, I hope we get this. But when we got all that, a lot of it within the first film, I'm going, holy shit, George Lucas, you beautiful son of a bitch. I was happy. I was, nothing can ever take away my happiness of this film. And that's something I told my brother. I said, listen, if somebody honestly doesn't like it, that's fine. That's their opinion. I said, but I love this movie. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, he saw it. He waited 2 years to see this movie. And when he come back to me, he goes, you know what? I said, what? He goes, he told me this exact words. He goes, fuck you, you're right. I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, why you gotta give me the curse word? He's like, cause I had to. I'm like,
That's awesome.
I'm like,
That's
I smiled at him. I shook my head at him. I'm like, you're funny, but that's, I, I get sort of, I get purist's standpoint, and I think that's where a lot of hate stems from with every franchise, not just Star Wars.
oh yeah.
Is purists really stand on the first set of films or even just the original? And
Hmm.
I get that, and I respect part of that, but then there's a part of me that goes, you're sort of taking away your own experience. I can't make you go see a movie, and really my job isn't to make people go see a movie, but my hope is this: no matter what comes next, you go and you don't let someone talk you out of going.
Right. You got to give it a fair chance.
Right. I agree. I agree 1000%.
Yeah.
What was
So
sorry?
go ahead.
What was your thought on the introduction of Qui Gon and Obi Wan?
I thought it was really cool. I loved seeing them in their hooded robes and
Mm-hmm.
the carrying the air of mystery about them, and they just looked very stoic and everything. And I liked that the first words that the Jedi spoke was, "I have a bad feeling about this," but uh, I thought it was neat seeing Obi-Wan as a new apprentice, because he was the wise Jedi Master in the original, and it seemed like he had all of the answers. And it was really neat getting to see him, as a wet behind the ears Jedi apprentice. And I really enjoy Qui Gon as the Jedi Master, and I love that Qui Gon wasn't so much of a stickler for the rules, that he led more on intuition than like the Jedi code. And I think Obi-Wan said that's got him in trouble quite a bit, and that's why he's not on the council. It's because he goes with his own intuitions rather than the um, the rigid rules of the Jedi. And I really thought that was a cool opening scene, seeing them um, come onto the Trade Federation ship, and then they went into a frenzy when they found out that there were two Jedi on board. That they were going to end the blockade and stop what they were doing. And
Mm-hmm.
it surprised me that they went as far as like to just straight up have the droids come to murder the Jedi. I
Right.
thought that was a bold move, but yeah, that didn't work out well. So because they popped them like nothing. So that was, and I thought that was really neat when they closed the doors when the Jedi were trying to get in to the into the main room where the Viceroy was, and you just see Qui-Gon just thrust his lightsaber right into the door, and it starts melting away. And one way or another, they're getting in there, no matter what you do. They're coming after you. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to introduce the Jedi um, in this new trilogy that he was making. That you got to see them in their prime and all these new abilities and different things that you didn't get to see, other than Luke, trying to learn without much help. You got to see Jedi masters, and you know they were all business.
Yeah, I agree with you what you said about Qui Gon. He's not a stickler for the rules, and that's something I'm glad we're going to touch on here too. He didn't. Qui Gon does not seem to care so much about himself, power. He's not questing for power. He's not where we see Anakin later, where he wants to be part of the council, and Qui Gon didn't seem to give a rat's ass about it. He just, you know what? If they punish me, they punish me. He didn't. it,
Right. He
he
just
just
want to make his stand by them no matter what.
right. Exactly. I was really impressed with how Liam Neeson really played this character, and just how he was really. I mean, each Jedi is different for sure, but Qui Gon is somebody who was really, really different from Anakin, Obi Wan, Yoda, all of them. He wasn't worried about power at all. He looked at the Force, I think, as okay, who's next? Who's next in line?
Right.
Almost, it felt like.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, I thought he was a great example of a Jedi master, and like I think of him as like where he was Obi Wan's teacher. Some of my best teachers were the ones that weren't afraid to kind of go outside the box and go that extra mile to help you, and had different ways to teach you things other than just sticking completely by the textbook. And I think Qui-Gon was a lot like that, and I thought he was a great Jedi Master, and Obi-Wan was lucky that he got him as his um, as his teacher, because Qui-Gon not only had a lot to show him about uh, the Force and things that the Jedi could teach him from textbooks, but I think Qui-Gon, you mentioned it earlier, Qui-Gon knew how to handle Watto and the gambling. Qui-Gon knew a lot about people and a lot about life, and he found a way to integrate that into teaching Obi-Wan. And I thought Qui-Gon was a great Jedi Master, and I really liked him a whole lot.
yeah, I did too. I thought he was a really interesting character. I'm glad they put over Darth Maul by him killing Qui Gon. It made sense. They just I can't even put into any more words how perfect this movie is, but it just
Right.
again it's beautiful. And if you have not seen Star Wars The Phantom Menace, please do so, because it is one hell of a movie and you will have one hell of a ride. But I do want to ask you this. Is
Sure.
there is there any character in the prequel you thought, like within the prequels, you thought maybe they either should have had or shouldn't have had?
Um, with the Phantom Menace or with just the whole prequel trilogy?
We'll do the whole prequel real quick.
Oh, this I'm gonna get so much hate for this. Okay, I love Christopher Lee, but
Mhm.
I could have done without Count Dooku. I would have been fine if we didn't have him, and they would have kept Darth Maul in his place. Um, I understand why he was there, because he was important with Palpatine using him as a way to start the war, to start the Clone Wars. But I I really would have been fine without Count Dooku and just keep Darth Maul alive. What about you?
I'm with you on a lot of ways here. I love Christopher Lee. He's a legend, to death. I mean,
Yes.
to me, Christopher Lee, they're using Christopher Lee more, not so much as a Jedi warrior, they're using him as a politician.
Right.
And I feel with that, you're having the same character with him and Palpatine almost. You don't want to make Palpatine pointless, and it's almost like they're doing that with Dooku. And that's sort of like Revenge of the Sith. He's Palpatine is reasserting himself once Anakin kills Dooku. But in the
Yeah.
same sense, I don't feel you needed Dooku to do any of that. You could have had Darth Maul do the same damn thing.
Exactly.
You could have. I agree with you. I feel, and again, Christopher Lee, at his age, I feel affected the way they did the lightsaber battle, because it
Right.
didn't. To me, it looked a lot smoother with Darth Maul in one. It didn't look smooth. It looked very like they were. I give Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen a lot of credit. They were putting over Christopher Lee as Count Dooku really in that fight, and you could tell that.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could when you go watch that. If anybody who hasn't, you can really tell they're more waiting on him to move,
Oh yeah.
and that's something you could really plainly see. And it just, I'm not saying it hurts the film in a sense, but it really, to me, it took away from what they did with Darth Maul,
Right.
and that's
And
where I will leave that.
right. That fight with Darth Maul set a bar,
It did.
and when the other ones, you have something that fails to at least even meet that bar, even if you're not going to surpass it, and it's going to meet that bar, then it can take away and kind of be like, all right, I'll go with it, but Darth Maul was better. But,
I agree with you. Before we get
yeah.
out of here, is there anything you want to add on the Phantom Menace?
Well, I'm actually curious to know. I mean, and there's a lot we could probably say about, Natalie Portman as
Mm-hmm.
Amidala. I thought she was a really really good female character in this one, and I love that she was very confident and she didn't care to like storm the throne room and take back the palace and everything. But I would just like to know, what was your experience seeing this for the first time? Tell me about that day.
My experience seeing this for the first time was pretty casual, actually. I went to the movie. My mom had dropped me off. She wasn't blind yet. She could still see. And I said, "Do you want to go see this with me?" And she said, "No, not this time." And I wish she would have said yes, part of me.
Yeah.
Because she didn't, I
Right.
don't think she ever saw The Phantom Menace with her sight. She saw it, she more heard it when she was blind. But
Right.
she didn't. I went by myself, and she was actually in the mall, so she didn't necessarily leave. She just wasn't in the theater because
Right.
the mall's connected to the theater where I lived. And I went to go see it. I bought my ticket. I just sat there and I was blown away. And I just kept telling my mom about it and how great it was. And then I'll never forget what she said. She goes, "Well, aren't you glad I made you watch Battlestar Galactica before you watch Star Wars?" I'm like, what does that have to do with what I just told you? She was messing with me. She was messing with me, man. I was like, really? I'm like, really? And she started laughing, and I'm like, she goes, "I'm glad you loved the movie." She goes, "It sounds like it was exciting." And I said, "It was."
That's cool. That's really cool. Were there a lot of people in the theater when you went to see it that first time? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was. Here's the thing: it was only 3 days. It was only out for 3 days, so it was
Oh wow.
packed.
Yeah.
I was literally. I won't say I was in line because, again, the best time to go was when people were working. So this was a Friday, and I
Mhm.
but people but I guess people decided to start leaving work because there's people
Yeah.
there. I noticed as soon as I bought my ticket, all of a sudden there's some people behind me. I'm thinking, where'd all these people come from? And they're like piling in behind me. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I've always said it. Seeing Star Wars movies is a perfectly acceptable excuse to miss out on work. That's that's my opinion, and I stand by that.
uh,
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So you got to see it on the opening Friday.
yeah,
That's really cool.
it was really. I'll never forget that she took. I said, "Mom, I want to see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace." She goes, "As long as you do your chores, whatever, I'll take you up to go see it. I'm not gonna go see it, but you can go see it." And I'm like, "Okay." And I paid for my ticket. I went in to go see it, and I loved it. And there was a ton of
Yeah.
people in there. It,
Imagine.
there was like I've seen the longest line I've ever stood for was was two lines. Number one was Titanic.
Uh-huh.
Number two was Revenge of the Sith. That was it. That was my
Wow.
two longest lines I've ever stood for. And
Mhm.
if you honestly saw Titanic in theaters, you know what I mean. You stood there a while. There was a line.
Oh yeah. Now see, I never saw that movie in theaters, so um, uh, but a lot of my friends did, and they saw it like multiple times, and so yeah, they were talking about how, I mean, it was always packed every time that they went, and like even the next weekend they'd go and it was packed. So they were talking about how it was always a full theater when they would go see Titanic. So yeah, that was I never did get to see that in the theaters, but yeah, I heard lots about it, and I didn't get to see it until many years later when it came out on DVD.
You lucky man, you, because you saved yourself the longest stand of your life. You really.
True.
It just. Uh, don't get me wrong. I loved because I'm. We're both movie people. Like, you know what I mean. We
Yeah.
both love going to see movies, and I
Yeah.
don't regret going to go see it. But
Right.
man, I
Right.
had to literally jog in place because standing there, my legs kept falling asleep.
And the longest line I ever had to wait for was when The Force Awakens came out in 2015. I was in line probably about an hour and a half, and it was a very, very slow moving line. But it was cool because there were a lot of, and I'll save more of this conversation for for when we get to episode 7.
Right.
Um, there were a lot of cosplayers there, and people that had just really gone all out, and a lot of kids, you could tell they had saved their Halloween costumes. This was in December, and a lot of kids still had their Halloween costumes and were dressing up um, as the characters, and the movie hadn't even come out yet. So that was a lot of fun. It didn't feel like I was waiting in line an hour and a half. So that was really cool.
See,
But
now I wish there would have been cosplayers for Titanic. There wasn't none of that now. There
yeah,
wasn't. There wasn't. I was like,
about killed to the bone and just shivering. There's your cosplay.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, right, right. Uh,
exactly. But
uh,
I, I'm sure you've seen me tweet this. I've tweeted this a couple of times. My first time seeing it was on my last day of high school, and I remember I got off at 1:30, and there was a showing of it on opening day. It was May the 19th in 1999, and my brother said he was going to pick me up and take me to go see it, and we went during the day. So it was about, like I said, it was about an hour and a half drive, and it was a packed theater. I had no expectations of what this was going to be. I hadn't seen any trailers because I hadn't been to the movies, and I'd only seen like a few little commercial spots, um, and like for different snacks like Pepsi and Doritos and all this stuff. And I remember him taking me on my last day of high school to go watch Star Wars, and it was his first time watching it too. Of course, because it was opening day, and I loved it more than he did. He liked it, um, but like I said, I fell in love with the movie, and I couldn't wait to go see it again. And I remember my mom was a kindergarten teacher, and um, she was changing. She was going to go to first grade, which meant she was going to get a new classroom. And the only teacher supply store was there in Charleston, West Virginia. And I didn't have a car, so every time they went there and like 6 or 7 trips that summer to go to the teacher supply store to get stuff for her new classroom. And so they'd take me. I begged to, go with them, and they would drop me off at the movie theater, and I would go watch the Phantom Menace, and then they'd pick me up on their way home from the teacher supply store. So so I got to see it for six. I got to see it a total of 6 times
Nice.
that summer, and it was like if you saw it before 4 o'clock, it was like $4 for your movie ticket. So so yeah, I got to see it. My brother paid for my ticket the first time I saw it, and then for a total of $20, I saw it 5 times more that summer, which is about the price of what you pay for one ticket now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I got to see it quite a bit. Eventually, through my last time seeing it, I was the only person in the theater. In August, because they let it run there at that theater all summer long. So yeah, I really got my feel on that movie, and I got to see it once more. In I think it was 2010 when they put it back out in 3D in certain theaters. So that was a lot of fun. I have a lot of fond memories of watching that movie.
It's a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, it is.
It has a lot of great replay value, and it is well worth. If you don't have the prequels, we highly recommend you pick them up. But yeah, it's an amazing movie for sure. Phantom Menace was amazing to me to watch, not just in theaters, but watch when my wife bought it on DVD, when we bought the Star Wars sets on Blu-ray and stuff, or DVD. I was excited. I was just like, I could not wait to get it home, and we got it home, and I put it on. The kids went to sleep, and then I said, "You guys got to watch Star Wars with me today," and so I played the Phantom Menace twice, and my daughter's like, "Daddy, what are they doing?"
That's so cool. That is so cool.
So,
and couldn't wait to dive into a lot of the extras that were on the DVD, because I love stuff like that, seeing how things are made, and how they designed everything, and the planet Naboo is my favorite location in the prequel trilogy. That place is gorgeous, like the palace that sits on the waterfalls, and I thought they did such a good job of making it look so real, and it was. I love everything about the Phantom Menace. I really do.
George Lucas really did it. He put this. It's crazy to think the prequels look prettier than 4, 5, and 6. But you gotta understand. What I tell people this is, look, George Lucas. He had so much of a budget for one film, and then when you have a franchise that's successful, he gets to do this stuff and tell that story. And when he told this story, it's, by God, you're looking at everything he did, and it's like, everything looks beautiful. It looks so crisp. It's just, it blows you away.
After 20 years, it still holds up just as well, in my opinion.
Absolutely, 1000%.
Yes.
Oh goodness. Is there anything you want to add?
I think I'm good. How about you?
Good. We've had a lot of fun here tonight. We touched on the characters and just how great they were. We are going to schedule, me and Mark will schedule on Twitter for our next one, for the next movie. We promise we won't bury Count Dooku throughout the entire discussion.
Exactly. I like Count Dooku, but
right.
Like I said, if we could have, our writers' brains, if we could have done something differently, I think that's how we would have, preferred it to be. But hey, I like Dooku. I do.
I do too. I think when we do the next movie, I think there's gonna be a lot of things we touch on with these characters, and not
Yeah.
just Count Dooku, but Anakin and Padme's relationship. That is definitely, it's one hell of a time jump within the prequel series because Anakin's not
Yeah.
no little boy,
Right. There's a lot that happens in 10 years.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, yes, sir. All right, guys. Mark, thank you, man, for coming on. I had a ball, man. I had fun.
Me
Link
too. Thank you
link
so
will
much.
be in the description box for Mark's channel. You can get him on Twitter at @I_Barnabas. Really, really cool guy. Mark, thanks a bunch, man.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too, man. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.